Norfolk City Council to order. This is an open meeting. And posted right around the corner there is the actual Open Meeting Act. If you would, please stand with us for a moment of silence and as well, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Beth, we'll continue with roll call.
Granquist.
Here.
Lange.
Here.
Merrill.
Here.
Clausen.
Here.
Murin.
Here.
Moaning.
Here.
House. File.
Here.
All right, under action, if I could, I would like approval of the consent agenda as provided you.
So moved, Your Honor. Second.
We have a motion with a second to approve the consent agenda. If you would please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
All right, and as well, approval of the full agenda as provided you.
So moved, Your Honor. Second.
We have a motion with a second for approval of the full agenda. Again, I would ask for your vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
All right, under special presentations. First one is Imagine a Day Without Water. Whereas infrastructure that brings water to and from homes and businesses is essential to the quality of life and economic vitality of the city of Norfolk, and whereas Norfolk residents on an average utilize 150 gallons of water per person per day, and whereas managing water responsibly is critical to our nation's environmental health and to high quality of life through economic commerce, power generation, and recreation, and whereas investing in drinking water and wastewater systems will secure a bright and a prosperous future for generations to come, whereas innovation in water conservation and water reuse will drive job growth, economic development, and establish a 21st century paradigm of water management in the United States, and whereas the city of Norfolk is dedicated to investing in water and wastewater infrastructure and calls on federal partners to bring much-needed funding and innovation to protect and to restore the city's critical water infrastructure, and whereas Imagine a Day Without Water campaign being held September 15, 2016, is an organized effort to highlight the critical importance of reliable access to clean water in our lives and the investment in infrastructure that is necessary to protect this valuable resource. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Sue Fookman, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, do hereby proclaim September 15, 2016 as Imagine a Day Without Water Day in the City of Norfolk, and urge each individual in our community to recognize that water is essential to the quality of life and the economic competitiveness, and acknowledge the importance of educating the public about the value of water through the Imagine a Day Without Water campaign. Gentlemen, as these two come forward, I will tell you Norfolk is very fortunate to have these two gentlemen that certainly take care of and do for us what it is that they provide every single day. I don't know that anybody has anything to worry about, so our thanks. Anything you two would like to say? Either one of you? Thank you. I get that, but
No, just, you talked about the infrastructure. One thing that Norfolk's has been extremely good at having is a strong council that is always valuing water, wastewater for not only for citizens, but for the economic growth also. So we appreciate all you guys do for us.
very good. Thanks for being here. Oops, one more here, proclamation for Family Day. Whereas the use of illegal and prescription drugs and the abuse of alcohol and nicotine constitute the greatest threat to the well-being of America's children, and whereas scientific evidence demonstrates that teen alcohol and drug use interferes with brain development and can inflict serious, sometimes irreversible brain damage in the long term, and whereas the prevention or delaying of teens using alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs for as long as possible is crucial to their health and safety. And whereas a child who gets through their mid-20s without smoking, misusing alcohol, or using illicit drugs is virtually certain never to do so, and whereas the earlier and more often an adolescent smokes, drinks, or uses illegal drugs, the likelier that adolescent is to become addicted, and whereas children of hands-on parents are less likely to smoke, drink, or use other drugs. Therefore, I, Sue Fuchman, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, by the power invested in me, do hereby proclaim September 26th, 2016 as Family Day. Be involved and stay involved in the City of Norfolk, and I encourage all citizens to recognize and participate in this observance. So, I know each and every one of you should be coming forward to receive this, but I appreciate the fact that you will talk about it for us and make sure every day is Family Day here. So, with that, we're going to go on to the public hearings and related action. First, we have a public hearing to comply with the provisions of the statute 18-1755 to acquire properties at the following addresses: 305 South 9th Street and 411 South 2nd Street, both in Norfolk, Nebraska, for property maintenance and demolition. I will open the public hearing and look for who's speaking to this. Clint, she says.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a public hearing to meet the requirement of the statute that says regarding the acquisition of property. The properties that are there are both properties that code staff have determined are in line for demolition. There's some stories which we won't go into regarding both of those, but we have some arrangements whereby the parties are going to have indicated their willingness to convey the property to the city so that it can be demolished. The effect of that will be to, if we wouldn't have that cooperation, we would tear down the properties, put a lien against it, have to wait 3 years to foreclose on them. So this will allow us to just move those along a little better. So that's what we're talking about doing.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to this or may have questions about? Okay. Council? Any input on this at all, or questions or concerns, or?
Clint, with them conveying them to us, I'm assuming they probably aren't current with taxes also, or not?
They what?
I'm assuming they probably aren't current with the taxes.
One of them, an individual, the owner died, and it was current on taxes with the exception of 2015 taxes, which were paid this year. I think it's about $800 on the one. Is that right, Scott? I think it's about $800. The other one, the taxes are showing paid, but when I was working on it today, we just got, one of them just gave us the go-ahead to proceed with that today. It looks like there were several years of taxes at about $400 or $500 a year on them. And there may be some tax sale certificates out there, so we may have some taxes to deal with that, even though if you go online, it's showing them as being paid. So there could be a couple $1,000 taxes on the 9th Street one.
Okay. So there's just a matter of closing the public hearing at this point then. Okay, anyone else that wants to speak to this or may have questions? Okay, seeing none, then I will close this public hearing, and I have been advised there is no action that will be taken on this at that time, or at this time, so. Next then, we're going to look at a public hearing to consider submitting an application to the Nebraska Department of Economic Development for a community development block grant in the amount of $26,400 for the CDBG Comprehensive Development Phase 1 funds for a planning study to determine future projects within the target area. Again, I will open this public hearing, and I will see that we have someone coming forward that's going to speak to this for us.
Yes. I'm Tina Engelbart. I'm the Deputy Director at the Northeast Nebraska Economic Development District. And as the mayor stated, this grant application is for a comprehensive development program that's offered through the Nebraska Department of Economic Development. It was formerly the Comprehensive Revitalization Program, which the city participated in since 2005. There was another program for smaller communities that was called Comprehensive Investment and Stabilization. And so what they did was they combined the CR program with the Comprehensive Investment and Stabilization Program into one. So this is the new and improved Comprehensive Development Program. So it's similar to the CRs that you've participated with in the past, where there's a planning study that's done initially, and then from there, there's subsequent funding for various phases to implement the projects that are identified in the planning study. So with this one, the pre-development study, we're thinking if the application's successful, we're looking at release of funds in November, and then the study would run November to June. We would bring it back to the council, for approval and a public hearing at that time as well. And then the study actually gets submitted with the application for the Phase 2 funding. Phase 2 funding is over a 2-year implementation time period, and it's $350,000 each year. So along with the pre-development study, we would do online surveys like we've done in the past for the CR studies, town hall meetings in the targeted area, and I believe those maps of the targeted area are in your packets. Town hall meetings, share of the survey results, work with city staff to identify the needs in the areas, and then all that information gets compiled into the study. This program is a little bit different. In the past, it was a dollar-for-dollar match with CDBG funds in the city, and now they're requiring also a leverage match in the target area. So the Norfolk Housing Agency has identified a single-family house they'll be constructing in the target area that'll be available to low to moderate income individual or families, and so they've committed that for the leverage.
Okay.
The maps, I think, are in here, but for the public, can you just generally give us an idea of what the target area is?
It is, let me see if I've got a map. It's for sure downtown. It's about, the north side is Prospect, the south side is Phillips, the east side is First Street, and the west side is, I believe it's 13th Street.
Thank you.
And to answer your question, it's basically the same area as the past CR target areas. Yep.
Are you trying to pull it up,
And
boys?
it's page 120.
Page 120.
Yeah, Prospect on the north. For sure, First Street on the east.
Just tip your head a little bit there.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
A little blurry.
Yep, wrong one.
Let's see. It's Phillip on the south.
Now stand on your head.
Exactly.
That's okay. If you can just confirm 13th Street on the west, I think we'll be okay, because I'm certain on the other ones.
Yeah, 13th Street.
Okay. Prospect to Phillip, first to 13th.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
It's a little bit around 13th and Norfolk, it's west of 13th. That A,
Oh, yep, yep.
Any questions for Tina at all while we have her before us? Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thanks, Tina. All right, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone that wants to come forward and speak to this or may have questions, or Mr. Nanderkel, welcome. You know the role, sign in for us if you would.
Good Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm just here to say I do support this application for the planning grant for the community development CDBG funds. For those that don't know, we work with housing, so hopefully upon funding of this planning, we definitely want to be at the table with that planning team to put together a plan to try to secure some additional funds for the community of Norfolk. Been a little bit absent the last couple of years of doing some planning here with the city and housing, but this time that we get a little bit more involved, so I'm just here to let you know that we fully support that application, and hopefully the State Department of Economic Development will think the same. So we just want to be here for trying to get those funds put to use.
Thanks, Roger. I think it's important, the more voices that are heard from, the better for us, so.
And I
thanks
did
for your
provide a
effort.
letter of support for that application as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Anyone else that wants to come forward and speak to this at all, or may have questions? Okay, if not, then I will go forward and close this public hearing, and we'll look for consideration of Resolution 2016-38, submitting a grant application to the Nebraska Department of Economic Development for $26,400 of CDBG Comprehensive Development Phase 1 funds to conduct the planning study and authorizing mayor to sign all documents, contracts, and other memoranda to effect acceptance of the grant.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
All right, we have a motion with a second. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, Resolution 2016-38 is adopted.
Thanks, Tina, for being here. Next is a public hearing to consider the feasibility of an amendment to the Norfolk Comp Plan from agriculture, open space to industrial on the property generally located on Eisenhower Avenue, 1/2 mile east of Victory Road. I will open this public hearing, and Val, do you want to begin?
Thank you. Yes, this property is just kind of south and east of like Norfolk Iron and Metal and the ethanol plant. There along Eisenhower, there's already a little square of industrial in that long Eisenhower there. And this would change the comprehensive plan from open space ag to industrial on either side of that little square. So you're finishing that quarter section along Eisenhower to make it industrial.
Okay. Anyone else? Again, this is a public hearing, so Mr. Johnson. We haven't seen you for a while, Mr. Johnson.
I've been hiding.
I don't know if enough, but
I'm hoping I don't have to go to the Board of Adjustment with this one.
so are we, Dick,
It'll be
so
a
are we.
change. First of all, do you have both public hearings open? The comprehensive plan and the zoning? And if not, would you?
Certainly, the comprehensive plan, and where is, to consider a zoning change, yes. Yeah. All right, with that being requested, we'll open both public hearings here.
That way I only have to come up here once. Less chance of screwing up.
All right.
This is the.
33, right? We're all in agreement, public hearing to consider a zoning change from Ag District to I-1 Industrial on property located on Eisenhower as described. So yes, both are open.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is land owned by Paul McIntosh on Eisenhower Avenue. Basically, it runs from a 1/2 mile east of Victory Road, a 1/2 mile east of the county line, and then north, and 660 feet north roughly. It kind of surrounds Eisenhower Avenue Industrial Addition, which is where McHugh Metal was, and Tyson has been using for storing whatever he's demolition from the regional center. This will just basically put 40 acres of light industrial zoning out there. We'd ask for your approval.
Okay. Dick's in front of you. Any questions for him at all, council? Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Again, public hearings, both open. Anyone else that wants to come forward and speak to this or may have questions regarding the request? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close then both public hearings and ask for consideration of ordinance 5.
Planning Commission reports.
Oh, yes, we do probably need planning commission reports first, my fault. You're going to give us both?
Yes. The
Okay.
Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on August 16th to consider amending the City of Norfolk's comp plan from agricultural open space to industrial on property located generally on Eisenhower Avenue, 1/2 mile east of Victory Road. J. Paul and Eleanor McIntosh applied for a rezone on the property, which requires an amendment to the city's comp plan. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the amendment on a 7-0 vote. And then we have the Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on August 16th at the request of J. Paul and Eleanor McIntosh to consider a zoning change from A agricultural to I-1 light industrial on the property on Eisenhower Avenue, 1/2 mile east of Victory Road, and the Planning Commission recommends approval on a 7-0 vote.
All right, with that, we've had both the planning commission reports, so with this being closed, I'm going to look for consideration of ordinance number 5424 that will be amending the city's comprehensive plan from agricultural open space to industrial on the property generally located on Eisenhower Avenue, 1/2 mile east of Victory Road.
Your Honor, I'd offer for consideration ordinance number 5424.
Second.
We have a motion with a second for consideration of, if no further discussion. How about a short title, Beth?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the comprehensive plan and future land use map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
With that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5424 carries on first reading.
All right, and then consideration of ordinance, so what?
Your
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your Honor, I would move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5424 on second and third reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5424 on second and third. I would ask for your vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5424 carries on second and third.
All right, and now consideration of ordinance number 5425, approving the zoning change from A agricultural to light industrial on property located on Eisenhower Avenue, 1/2 mile east of Victory Road.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance 5425 on first reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second. Short title, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5425 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I would move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5425 on second and third reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5425 on second and third. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5425 carries on second and third.
All right, and next, we have public hearing number 35 to review the City of Norfolk's fiscal year 2016-17 municipal budget, as well. Public hearing 36 to review the City of Norfolk's proprietary budget, water, sewer, and solid waste. And 39, public hearing to receive comments regarding changing the vehicle parking fund and the general fund tax request for the 2016-17 fiscal year from the amounts for the 2015-16 fiscal year. I am opening all three of the public hearings, and we're going to look to Randy, I would imagine, to begin discussion.
Shane is going to be doing the budget
I'm
presentation.
going to do your presentation this year.
Okay.
I don't know if that, it doesn't
I don't know,
sound
it's
like
kind of a toss-up, boys. We'll find out. Who's
All right,
timing?
great. You'll see in your screen.
Sorry, Randy.
And the public can see on the screen our budget presentation. I'll tell you, Mayor and Council, first of all, this was a challenging budget year. Our revenues were flat, and I'm really proud of the council and the staff worked hard on this budget to get it in a form that I think is ready to go and still meet a lot of you guys' goals moving forward, and most importantly, move the community forward with the budget for the next year, 2016 to 2017. I gotta get my roller going here. Mayor and Council established these goals to continued support of area economic development. Goal 2, pursue recreational enhancement and quality of life opportunities. Goal 3, street expansion and maintenance. Goal 4, continued positive community engagement and public relations. Goal 5, increase emergency cash reserve. Goal 6, encourage community property maintenance. Goal 7, partner to stabilize the Elkhorn River embankment. Goal 8, lobby for and support completion of Highway 275 expansion to 4 lanes. And Goal 9, complete the library remodel and expansion project, which many of these are continual and underway. Revenues this year were a little short and flat. As you look at the general fund revenues, we're going to focus first on the general fund and then get a bit into the utility funds or the enterprise funds. You'll see how our general fund revenues break out in percentages. Sales tax is 46% of the general fund. NPPD lease arrangement is 19, just about 20% of the general fund revenues, and then property tax comes in a distant third at just at 10% of the general fund revenues. When you look at the breakdown independently of what those revenues look like, you can see that in this spreadsheet, and to see what our total revenues based are right at $22.5 million. And you can see the breakdown again in order from highest to lowest. Here's where we're showing what some of our flatness is really. If you look at this slide where my cursor is, you'll see that in 14 and 15, the sales tax, our largest revenue source, is flat. When the voters voted to improve a half-cent sales tax for the library project, you'll see that sales tax remained pretty flat, just exactly flat almost. So we have seen very little growth in our largest revenue source. Our second largest source, you'll see that in 2013, 2014 was kind of the high point for those revenue trends with the NPPD lease, and then it's been decreasing or flat over the last couple years, and we project that going forward into this next budget year as well, which obviously causes us some relooking at our budget.
Shane?
Yes.
I mean, what's the driving force that made that go in reverse then? Or is there anything?
The revenues from NPPD, they're trying to not increase their utility rates, basically. They're really working hard to increase efficiencies in the utility model that they use at Nebraska Public Power, and you're seeing that corresponding lease payment to flat because of those efforts on NPPD's part. And I would mention that Randy and Sheila and the division leads are here too, so as we go through, if there's any particular questions as we dig down into the budget a bit, if you want to dig deeper, we have all those brains here as well. Here's our third largest revenue source, albeit relatively small, about 10% of our budget. But this is the assessed valuation that you're seeing. You're seeing some, what I would call conservative to moderate growth in the valuation of people's homes and businesses in our community from 14 to 16. We're seeing right at that 4 to 4.5% increase in assessed valuations overall as an average. So we're seeing, we're seeing some increase in valuation, which is good for people's people's businesses and their homes to see that valuation. It is moderate. But keep in mind, our sales tax, for the city's share of sales tax, or excuse me, property tax, is 12% of the overall property tax asking for all the political subdivisions that use property tax as a revenue source. City of Norfolk's portion of that is only 12%, right at 12.5% of the total asking. So we have a small asking as far as our property tax and our revenue sources. I think that's important to point out because oftentimes the city is looked at as the conglomerate, for lack of better words, where we're all encompassing, but that's just not the case in our comparable public subdivisions, political subdivisions. So we're about 12%. So our property tax is a small portion of our revenues. Where it leads to the problem that we had this year, and the flatness of those revenues really caused us to look at a $873,000 projected shortfall in our budget. That was with the valuation changes coming in estimated at 0.22%. Now, we've seen an increased valuation up to 4.86% this year. But when we originally started putting the budget together, we were anticipating, according to our county assessor's initial look at valuation changes, we were seeing a very flat property tax valuation increase of just 0.22%, less than 1/4%. So we had a shortfall of our budget of $873,000 when we originally started putting the budget together. Our targeted ending balance for the level 3 budget was 2.8 million. We were seeing that our ending fund balance per our level 3 budget, which is our maintenance budget, was just at that 1.9, so we had a significant shortfall. When the valuation adjustments finally came in here in August and we put the final document together, we've seen an increase in revenue of $142,528. So our adjusted shortfall in level 3 is almost $731,000. So we're starting in the hole in our revenues considerably this year. So when that happens, we need to make adjustments. Obviously, we can't spend money we do not have. So the divisions were immediately advised to go to a level 2 budget. In short memory, I don't remember ever going to a level 2 budget, but they've adjusted their budgets accordingly from a level 3, which is our maintenance budgets, down to a level 2 budget. That order decreased our asking by our whole basically by $240,000. We still had an adjusted shortfall after decreasing to a level 2 budget of $490,000 in the general fund. So we had to make some more cuts. We had to get rid of that hole there, the $490,000, so we started to make additional cuts, and you'll see those cuts in this column here where my pointer is. Those additional cuts added up to about $430,000. And at this, I wanted to point out that what these cuts kind of look like. So when the division heads started to make their cuts, they're real things for us as a community. Most of it is in the capital, small capital, large capital budgeting. Basically, which means our rolling stock and or equipment that we use to serve the public. And I wanted to bring up a spreadsheet just quickly to show you what that looks like. But here's the budgets that and some of the items that we got into, some relatively minute things like snow ads and heating and AC repair. I mean, we started to cut into the budgets, the meat, I guess, for lack of better words, fairly significantly. You'll see in the street department what kind of cuts they had to make, from illuminated signs to steel doors for a building to sandblasting repair services. Parks got pretty deep as well, and you'll see that, I mean, down to trash cans and picnic tables. Those kind of things, sometimes they're seamless for the public to see until they're ready to use that, or they see a property maintenance problem that we're dealing with as a city. Then they become pretty apparent. But in order to make our budget, we have to get deep into the details here. So you'll see that as we go down, just some examples. In the library, we cut $23,000 total out of the library's budget, which is a relatively small budget anyway, and some significant things from adult programs and laptops to public tablets. Fire department, again, same verse here. Video laryngoscopes, emergency medical supplies, concrete and carpeting, and things that we just basically can defer maybe for a year or so. Power load cot, these are items that firefighters use and/or chief uses to keep his buildings and our property in good shape. Police department, you can see some examples there as well, that they got into their budget pretty deep to make those cuts. So I just wanted to share that with the council and with the community, because the council has seen these items during the budget preparation proposals. So for the community's benefit, just to see what that looks like. After we made those cuts, we were able to get down to a shortfall after the cuts of just about $60,000 shortfall, where we needed to try to find additional dollars. There's a pie chart of what those cuts look like, as I just went through. Kind of shows you visually what the different departments had to do per budget for total budget cuts by division. After the cut items, we had that shortfall of just about $60,000. In the meantime, on August 23rd, we had a subcommittee meeting, and they discussed adding back in and recommending these adds back into the full council for tonight, and that's for a community marking, which is our effort to recruit and partner with the Sports Council and the Visitors Bureau to recruit additional youth events and recreational events to our community. The nuisance mitigation, which is our pigeon and starling mitigation program. When we have a lot of pigeons and starlings and other nuisance problems in the community, we contract with the USDA to mitigate those, and then a toxilizer for the police department were recommended to be added back in, which increased our shortfall to $81,000. In order to deal with that, we had revenue increases here into the transfer of fees, increase of administration fees from water and sewer and solid waste funds over to the general fund. That's an effort that the staff does to really look at the cost of providing the general administration and support services to our utility departments. We try to evaluate that periodically. This is one of the years we evaluated, and we increased those fees and did that transfer of $69,727. And then an interest increase due to the cuts was a $1,300 increase as well, for a total revenue increase of $71,000 there. As we moved our way down, the elected officials looked seriously at two priorities for the budget that they thought was important to do, and that's increasing hitting our target emergency balance of 3.5%. What the emergency fund balance is just that. It's a balance that we try to carry over from budget year to budget year. We're trying to grow that to accommodate any type of emergency that may come to our doorstep, be it a tornado or flood or those kind of things. I would say we are not robust in our ability to manage those as far as the financial resource goes. We're right at 12%. The recommendation is to be right at 16% minimum, so we're working. That's been a council goal for a few years now. We're working on trying to increase that every year to try to get to that minimum target, and we're doing that with this budget. And this levy certification of $60,000, this is the beginning of the certification process for our levy that goes around our community, and it was built in the 60s and completed in 68. That certification has to be complete periodically. The FEMA standards for that and the regulations that involved with levy certification have continually ratcheted up, especially after the Hurricane Katrina experience that they had down there and FEMA had down there, and you'll see those kind of flooding things happen across our nation. FEMA's requirements on that's continually it up, and that certification is vital to our success as a community. Without that certification, our flood program goes back to like it wasn't there, which means significant amount of dollars would be expended by the property owners in a large portion of our community. So those two items were, the council felt were important to fund this year with a slight levy increase of half cent, so for, or 0.005, so for about $5.39 on a $100,000 home would be that a corresponding increase to balance the general fund. Those are the revenues, and here are the expenditures. You'll see in this graph how the breakdown in the different divisions in the general fund are made up, from police, fire, to library, to libraries is large because of the expenditure of the new library. Usually it isn't that large, but we're adding on, and as you know, remodeling the library within the next year or so. Administration, engineering, street maintenance, parks, park and recreation are all in that expenditure graph. Some of the small capital items that were funded in this year's budget were a CAD computer updated for the engineering department. Street department's going to get a few items there, a tractor mower and a new snow plow, and a pickup. Park maintenance, front end mower. Fire's going to get a new response vehicle and a new striker cot for the ambulance. Police budget 3 cruisers a year. As you know, the cruisers are used hard, and in order to keep up with our rolling stock at the police, we need to budget for 3 of those, and they're doing that again this year. Large capital projects that are in this budget are as follows. $3.4 million for street maintenance and contract work, which is one of your goals, to increase that and do more of that to the best of our ability and the best of that of the finances, using the finances wisely. The bridge on Norfolk Avenue will be under this year's budget, and that replacement project will come in at, we hope to be budgeting about $3.7 million. $625,000 for radios, for new radio system for the entire city. That's just the radio piece. $500,000 improvement to the park west of the YMCA. That's a significant large capital project. Flood control trail under Omaha Avenue, if grant funded. We are applying for that grant as we speak. We just submitted it last week. Hopefully we'll get that. If that comes to pass, we'll be expending our 10% match of that. We're partnering with the NRD in that. They're doing 10%, we're doing 10%, and then the grant would do 80%. The library renovation and expansion is budgeted as well in this budget, and you'll see those numbers there and how they are planned to be expended. And then the drainage for Eastern Norfolk is expanded in there as well, which is a large detention facility and swales to help flow the water in Eastern Norfolk down to the flood control system. It's as our community continues to grow to the east, residentially and commercially and industrial, we need to accommodate some of those drainage concerns out there, and this project will go towards that. Moving on to the enterprise funds for the expenditures, you'll see that in enterprise funds are water, solid waste, and sewer. They're capital heavy, as you would imagine, when you talk about the infrastructure that goes along with keeping our community a first-class community and expanding our economic development opportunities. We need to invest in ourselves, and this is where you invest in yourself. And I got to tell you, the mayor and council in this budget have really taken the initiative to invest in their community in a significant way. Here's some of the projects that you've decided in the initial budget meetings to invest in. Water main improvements on Omaha Avenue and Victory Road for $705,000. $2.3 million industrial tank on Victory Road in Benjamin, which is a water tower to help support that water system and that growth in that area. That's one of our industrial cores out there to the northeast. $1.1 million for the water extension on First Street and 13th Street south of the Elkhorn River. So with that project, as that comes to pass, it'll actually stub out 2 water lines south of our community, going down those 2 streets, which is a significant investment and opportunity for continued development to our southern border. $620,000 to connect the First Street extension and 13th Street extension. It's a budgeted item. $130,000 for a water line on Victory Road, Magnet Drive, and Eisenhower. That supports the industrial development out there as well as OCT. Sewer investments, $2.8 million for the Northeast Industrial Sewer Main Extension. This is in Sewer Fund and Special Assessment Fund and broke down accordingly. Highway 35 Interceptor, $1 million for that. $2.7 million for the Omaha Avenue Lift Station and Force Main. This will be a needed item as OCT gets here and boots on the ground and starts their process. Not only supports them, but supports our economic development opportunities all along our eastern edge of our community. So that's a significant investment there. $2.4 million Southwest Interceptor from 13th and Monroe to 25th in Omaha. This is on the other side of our community. Again, we have water in this area currently, and the mayor and council have made that investment within the recent years. We have big water over there, actually. And this sewer project would be a corresponding sewer line to accommodate that growth over on our western corridor of the community. $475,000 to run a sewer extension of 25th Street and Eisenhower Avenue to the area of 25th Street and Eisenhower Avenue from 13th Street, which follows the lay of the land there and gives opportunity for additional growth in our northwest corridor of our community. When you look at those projects on a map, I wanted to show just schematically kind of what that looks like. You'll see the red and blue and the green, the small green one there, is that project's almost done. But these are the investments that the mayor and council have decided to make in this budget going forward in the next few years or so as we bring these together. Obviously, they're large capital expenditures, large investment in infrastructure, but significant growth potentials for our community. So I just wanted to show that schematically what that looked like, so you'd have a good sense, the community have a good sense on where all those lines and that infrastructure projects would be going in our community. This shows the funds that are over $2 million that show over a $2 million change. The CHAF fund, which is the City Highway Allocation Fund, which helps support our investment in our street infrastructure. See an increase there at $2.2 million. The water fund shows a $2.8 million increase, which includes the rate increase and additional bond proceeds for those utility infrastructure projects that we just discussed. The sewer fund, same story, only in the sewer fund. Shows a significant increase there, and it shows because of the corresponding rate increases that'll go along with those projects. LB 840 shows a decrease. That's because we paid off, or we're in the process of making payment for we've made payment actually for the natural gas pipeline, which I'm glad to say, Mayor and some staff were out there last week and seen the pipe going in the ground, so it's a wonderful project, amazing project for our community, that natural gas line and our partners with Black Hills. And then debt service, you'll see a decrease then of $12 million as we paid off some recreational facilities and refunded some bonds there. So the net decrease in our overall budget is about $4.2 million from last year. Excuse me. So here are the highlights of the budget that you worked so hard on this year. Increased street and bridge maintenance, increased infrastructure improvements and extensions, a trail on Victory Road, and hopefully a trail extension under Highway 275 if that grant comes in. The the Victory Road Trail will go in. That is funded. Increased emergency fund balance, which is a brave step and a pertinent step for our future, is financial future. The commencement of the levy recertification process, and then the major improvements to the park and land west of the YMCA. So even in a tight budget year, we're doing some significant investment in our community, and I'm pretty proud to see that happen because it's going to pay dividends for years and years to come. With all that being said, we're projecting still to be the lowest, the fourth lowest property tax rate from our comparable cities across the state. Unless something radically changes in these other sister cities, we project to be still in that fourth spot of the lowest property tax request for our sister cities. So, with that being said, Mayor and Council, that is the end of the presentation. I or the staff would be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the budget. It's a lean budget, but it's a good budget for growth as well, especially on the utilities.
I will certainly entertain any one that may have questions on the first two. I think Shane has given us information regarding the water, sewer, and solid waste, and as well the municipal budget, but I think, Randy, we're going to probably look to you maybe to give us a little explanation on the vehicle, the vehicle parking fund, as I open that public hearing at the same time. So do you want to do that now for us?
Anytime you have a change in your property tax asking, state law requires that you have a resolution approving that change and hold a public hearing to consider setting those tax rates at a different amount than prior year. And so that would be what this hearing is considering. And the vehicle parking district increases their levy asking simply because of increase in assessed valuation. They keep theirs at 35 cents, and they're staying at 35 cents, but that gives them a slight increase in property tax. And then the general fund, as we talked about, has that property tax increase that Shane discussed, $70,000 in levy rate and $149,000 due to the 4.86% increase in assessed value.
Okay. I appreciate that, Randy. All right. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that wants to come forth and speak to any of the three public hearings that are open regarding the budget? We would just ask that you come forward, state your name. Anyone at all? I think Shane has done a great job in giving us pretty clear explanation. So with that being said, Council, I know you've heard this over and over the last months, but is there any questions, discussion, comments before I close these? None at all? Okay. Well, with that being said, I'm going to close the public hearing to review the City of Norfolk's municipal budget as well. The proprietary budget, the water, sewer, and solid waste. And with that closing, what do I need from you, Beth? We're going to go right to 37 for consideration of Resolution 2016-39, approving the additional 1% increase in restricted fund authority allowed upon the affirmative vote of at least 75% of the council.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of Resolution 2016-39.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion with a second. Is there needed discussion on this, short discussion, Randy, or are we?
This is something we have done every year that just doesn't
Right.
really have any impact on the budget. It just gives us additional restricted funds authority in case we need it in the future. In this case, it'll increase it by about $108,000 that we wouldn't have otherwise. So it's just give
Should
us
need be.
cushion in case we need it later. Does nothing to this year's budget.
Okay. Any other questions on that at all, council? All right. With that, I'm going to ask that you vote on Resolution 2016-39.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, Resolution 2016-39 is adopted.
Okay, next I'm looking for consideration of ordinance 5426 that is approving fiscal year 2016-17 appropriations, approving the fiscal year 2016-17 proprietary budget, and approving the strategic plan.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance 5426 on first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion with a second. If no further discussion,
I guess, you know, it was a lot of work. We had extra time, or extra meeting actually this year, and I guess, you know,
yeah?
got it to the point where it has the least and smallest impact, I believe, and we still keep the services that the citizens have become accustomed to.
Councilman, I agree wholeheartedly, and I also think we need to commend these groups that have sat before us and with us from city staff, all those department heads that took responsibility, took the charge to make sure they brought it to what still is going to be very positive, I believe, for this community, and so do all these elected officials. So again, I thank them as well. And certainly, Shane, job well done. I've got to hand it to you. I just have never heard anybody but Randy give us the budget. So job well done. Very well explained. So how about short title, Beth?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, adopting the budget statement to be termed the annual appropriation bill, appropriating sums for necessary expenses and liabilities, adopting the proprietary budget statement, adopting the strategic plan, providing for severability, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and take effect, and providing for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
And with that, your vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5426 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I would move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5426 on second and third reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second to pass ordinance 5426 on second and third, suspending the rules. So if no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5426 carries on second and third.
All right, and next, closing the public hearing on the vehicle parking district. Right, that's all been handled, yeah, all right. Next is consideration of 2016-40 approving the property tax request for fiscal year 2016-17 for the vehicle parking fund in the general fund in an amount different than fiscal year 15-16.
Your Honor, I would offer for consideration Resolution 2016-40.
Second that, Your Honor.
All right, we have a motion with a second. No further discussion. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, resolution 2016-40 is adopted.
All right. Moving on, consideration of ordinance number 5427, approving the fiscal year 2016-17 classification and pay plan. Can I have a motion for consideration?
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance 5427 on first reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second. Discussion on this? Any reference here that we need on this at all, other than to say you've seen it? Do you want to move on, or any discussion by this council? All right. Looking for none. How about a short title, Beth?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, classifying the employees of the city, fixing the ranges of compensation of such employees, providing a pay range, repealing ordinance number 5361, providing for publication in pamphlet form, and when this ordinance shall take effect.
And with that, your vote, please.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5427 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5427 on second and third readings.
Second?
All right, we have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5427 on second and third. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5427 carries on second and third.
All right, we're going to move now to consideration of approval of an engineering services contract with Kirkham Michael and Associates for the Southwest Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Phase 2 project in the amount of $188,630.
I'll make the motion.
Second that, Your Honor.
All right, we have a motion with a second. John, you're going to come forward and speak to this for us?
Okay, this contract will allow Kirk and Michael to design and provide bidding, some environmental and some easement services for the Southwest Interceptor Phase 2. Phase 1 of the project brought sewer to Highway 81 and Monroe Avenue. This will extend the sewer west along Monroe Avenue to about 25th Street and then north up to Omaha Avenue, where we'll be taking a lift station out of service. And future projects or future phases of the project will potentially continue this on in the future. So, any questions?
Questions for him at all, council? Okay,
Okay,
thank you, John. Any further discussion at all, council?
We're looking at this bidding when then? John? You're looking at this
Sometime next spring.
next spring? Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, your vote, please.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, and next is consideration of ordinance number 5428, enacting a new section 10-29 of the code to provide for rental of transfer station trailers.
Your Honor, I'd offer for consideration ordinance number 5428 on first reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second. Discussion on this, Todd?
We thought this, Clinton and his staff thought it'd be good to insert a better clarification of languages, so when we rent these trailers out to organizations to cover in case we have damages or anything that costs labor or extra fines, if we got fined for pulling it back if it was overweight, back to the transfer station to unload it if it was overweight, and dump the excess off in another trailer at the transfer station and then move on. So just better clarification for the rental of the transfer trailers that we have on hand. Any questions?
I guess I didn't realize that we rented those trailers.
I don't think any of us did, Todd, so you're edging us, so I guess it probably makes sense.
Well, in the end, I mean, is it a substantial income that comes off of that rental or not? Or is it just more community service than anything else?
It's not very well-known, I guess, until now. So,
Yeah.
Well, we can blame Clint for that, can't we?
well, no. But
No, that's,
the potential is there. I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We never thought about the ag side that you brought up or anything like that, I guess. That's a good question.
It's been primarily roofers that have been using the service.
Okay, we have been
Yeah.
renting it out then.
Yes, yes. And
We have been renting them out, and plus, if they're available. That's the big key.
I guess that's what I was always thinking is, okay, we're hauling to the landfill all the time with one spare. I didn't know how we were then throwing something out onto a job site that could tie up something for,
Yeah.
days.
Basically, the roofing things, we can get by with trailers that don't have the best of floors in them, that have a little bit of some issues. So it's really trailers that are there and probably about ready to be the end of the line, that we've been using for this service. Haven't had a lot of it, but it's been well received by the folks that have been using it, and try to keep as many on the road as we can.
Good.
So,
Okay, any other questions?
7 or 8 trailers in really good shape, and we've got 9 or 10 around, sometimes 11.
Right.
One of the things, Councilman, when you talk about the availability of it, if you look at the first line of 10-29, it talks about the transfer station may have trailers available, so it just depends on what they were there. And then this is also complemented by the ordinance that's still to come on the agenda with the fee schedule. And that fee schedule, what is the rental for this? $250, isn't it? $250? So for the $250, what happens is you pull the trailer out there, they can have it for a week.
Right.
They pull it back, and then for that you pull it back, and then all of this stuff becomes applicable if they have overload charges getting it back from the site to the transfer station. That's on the renter of the trailer. If you then take it back, you can offload to get to where you're at. But if you leave it overloaded, and then that becomes the city's responsibility at that point in time.
Right.
So,
If it's on par and underweight, it goes directly to the landfill and then back.
The landfill tipping fees are on top of the 250.
I would expect that.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Any other further discussion at all, council? All right, Beth, do we have a short title on this?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to enact a new Section 10-29 of the official city code to provide for rental of transfer station trailers, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
All right, with that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5428 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5428 on second and third reading.
Second.
We have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5428 on second and third. Again, if no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5428 carries on second and third.
Next would be consideration of ordinance 5429 to amend section 25 of the city code to correct mechanical permits fees, update transfer station fees, update water rates, update wastewater treatment rates, and update library fees. Can I have a motion for consideration? Please.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion for consideration of ordinance number 5429.
Second that, Your Honor.
All right, we have a motion and a second for consideration of 5429.
I'll take ownership,
Okay,
at least for explaining it.
okay, thank you.
Being several of these permit fees are related to the public works area. The first one, and I'll just kind of go through them as they go down through the ordinance. The first one was a permit and codes fee. We had a decimal point in the wrong place for the fee there. So the ordinance had a fee that was 10 times higher than what we were anticipating. So this corrects that. I highly doubt whether
10 times harder, 10 times higher than what's been charged since the fee ordinance was first enacted.
I was going to just go on and say, I suspect we were not charging according to the ordinance, but according to practice, so this cleans that up. The next items are related to the solid waste area transfer station. There's a 5% increase in the fees for crematorium services. It's $2 for a single animal and $4 for a multiple animal cremation. We're increasing the fees from $10 to $15 for disposal of computer and TV monitors. We're primarily just providing a service there and trying to collect the costs that it costs us to send them on down the road to the recyclers. We just talked about the transfer station rental fees. This puts the fee in there at $250. The next one, we have a water rate adjustment of 9% across the board. This increase is necessary to support the capital expenditures just approved, including extending water service south of the river. The last general water rate increase was in October of 2009. Typical residential should see about $2.10 every 2 months. Typical commercial will be a $7 increase over that 2-month period. Sewer rates, this ordinance provides for residential commercial classifications by an average of 8% effective October 1st of 2016 and a 6% increase effective September 1st of 2017. This was adjusted over 2 years to keep the larger commercials and the cleaner industrials so that their sewer rate increases remained in that low double digits or about 11% each year. Most of the increase for the capital expenditures were related to sewer main extensions, which are primarily flow charges. So those affect large commercials and cleaner industrials more severely than they do the residentials and the smaller commercials that have a larger portion of their costs related either to the fixed cost on the residentials or some of the BOD and suspended solids on the dirtier industrials or the higher strength waste industrial areas. So that's why you're seeing that over 2 years and trying to keep that adjustment in that area just slightly over single digits. Typical residential will see increase of $1.86 every 2 months in this October and $1.92 next year. Your typical commercial about $10 each year. And then finally, the last one had to do with the library. It changed an e-reader late fee to a Wi-Fi hotspot late fee. They changed technology. So we'll try to answer any questions you might have about those. Got Jessica here to help me out on the library. Scott can help on the permits and codes.
Okay, is there any question or comments at all, council? Jessica, I'm curious. Has your new Wi-Fi has that gone over well? Is it something that you can use outside? I had a request from somebody from Tilden that wanted to know if it would work. Okay.
The program has been really warmly welcomed by the community. They are little Wi-Fi hotspots that are powered by Verizon. So wherever you can get a Verizon signal, you can use the hotspot to have Wi-Fi there. So
Really?
yeah. So we have 4 of them right now, and we have, right now, all 4 are checked out, and we have 17 people on the waiting list as of this morning, so.
Okay, and you have if I remember right, the requirement is that you have held a City of Norfolk Public Library card for
4 months.
For 4 months.
And you have
Okay.
to be, you know, have paid your late fees and returned any overdue items.
Okay, all right, well, good job.
All right.
I think it's pretty, thinking outside the box. I like it.
We
I
are
like
the
it.
first library in the state to offer it, so we're excited.
Good for you, good for you. Okay, thank you. Any other questions about this at all, guys? All right, how about a short title, Beth?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 2-5 of the official city code to correct mechanical permit fees, to update transfer station fees, to update water rates, to update wastewater treatment rates, to update library fees, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5429 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I propose we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5429 on second and third.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with this to suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5429 on second and third. Again, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5429 carries on second and third.
All right, the next is consideration of resolution number 2016-41, approving the final plat of Tyndall's Addition. Am I saying that right? Tondale? Tondale? Okay. Gotcha, okay. All right. Can I look for consideration of?
I'll move for consideration of resolution number 2016-41.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for consideration for Resolution 2016-41, approving the final plat. Val, do you have anything to add to this?
I would, please. This area is out around the Terra Heights.
Yes.
This was before you all about a month and a half ago for a zone change for part of this property in preparation for all of the land in this plat being the same zoning category of SR. So now the plat is before you. There are 3 lots involved, and there will still be 3 lots. It's just a redistribution of some of the land. That's what this plat is doing. And it is on the regular agenda tonight because one of the neighbors in the area would like to come before you and speak about this plat.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Val on the explanation she's given you? All right. Is there someone that wants to come forward and speak to this?
She was the one that wanted to speak about it. She's just worried about the buildings and stuff going up around.
Can I ask you to come forward for us, if you will, and we'll ask you to sign in for us, sir, and state your name, and that way we make sure that there is record that her voice was shared through you.
Yeah, my wife was just worried about, construction of buildings around the area and stuff like that. It's going to be, storage building, maybe possibly of the new landowners buying it. And we got a good view right now, and we just, hate to see that disappear. I don't know how big of a building they can build or that kind of stuff. And, we was worried about our property value might, decrease because of it. But I know there's not much we can do about it besides, move on.
Well, and I appreciate hearing you. Please know that certainly I would assume that anything they decide to do, they're going to come before this Planning Commission and ask permission for, and we will certainly be looking at what it is that's going to happen there. So, again, I understand what you're saying, but.
It's the way things are.
Oh,
It's just the way things are.
Sure, yeah.
You can't do nothing about changes.
state your name for me, if you will, sir, so we,
Kevin Schultz.
Kevin?
Yeah,
Kevin
we
Schultz.
live right in the middle of the whole thing. You know, our property is right in the middle of the two that are
Right.
joining. And we all the time thought someday we could have bought that, but I know the seller has the opportunity to sell it to whoever he wants to sell it to.
Sure.
But we were never, you know, gave a chance to buy it. So
Understand.
it's the way it is.
Okay, thank you for coming forward. Anyone else? Okay, with that being said, any discussion by this council? Then I would ask you to vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, Resolution 2016-41 is adopted.
Next is consideration of Resolution 2016-42, approving a sidewalk waiver for lots 1 and 2, Philmeyer Eisenhower Avenue addition.
Your Honor, I'd introduce ordinance resolution 2642.
Second.
We have a motion with a second for consideration of Resolution 2016-42 for a sidewalk waiver. Val?
Yes, the sidewalk waiver is part of the plat that was actually on your consent agenda tonight, Philmeyer's plat.
Right.
There are 2 lots. It's on West Eisenhower around the 3100 block. They would request a sidewalk waiver considering there isn't any sidewalks in that area right now.
But they'll be more than happy to when they come, right?
Yes, that is what the resolution is.
All right. Any questions or discussion here, council? All right, I would ask that you vote, please.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, Resolution 2016-42 is adopted.
And last but not least is consideration of approval of a Resolution 2016-43, adopting the 2017 through 2026 Capital Improvement Program.
Your Honor, I'd offer for consideration Resolution 2016-43.
Second that, Your Honor.
All right, we have a motion with a second, and we have Mr. Lyle coming forward to speak to us on this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's interesting that we just finish up the budget talk and we start looking into the next 2 to 10 years, but that's what this is about. The CIP, as a reminder, is described earlier as a conveyor belt that feeds the budget machine to include items that are $50,000 in general, $50,000 or greater, with an outlook for up to 10 years. Much of it not necessarily set in stone, which allows some freedom to use. It can be difficult to predict how long some equipment's going to be in service. And that ability to move allows for full flexibility of equipment to be replaced as needed, or in some cases have a longer life expectancy than what may have been initially planned. Shane talked a lot about the important stuff that I imagine you have many questions about through his presentation. As you flip through there, I guess I would happily answer, or do my best to answer any questions you may have.
There's a lot of flipping through we can do here, but obviously there's, all these things certainly are, as you suggested, projected, and certainly are going to have further consideration from us, so, or from the elected officials. So, anything in particular, council, that you would like to have Lyle talk to?
I don't necessarily have anything, but I think it is important to bring up that all these things will be looked at in the future, and it's good planning, but it's not necessarily set in stone, and nothing in here is going to be expended without further.
Yeah, it's just the conveyor belt that feeds the machine, and it'll be discussed the year before as in normal process.
I see an awful lot of bees in there, you know it? And that means they're necessary. So, and I don't think again, we'll have the opportunity for further discussion on all this, but thank you for
Sure, and if you
pulling
have
it all
other
together.
questions, I mean, not just necessarily now, but whenever, feel free to ask.
We know where you are.
Yep.
Okay?
You know, looking through there, I don't think there's a D in the bunch. Maybe there is.
I don't see I don't see,
Desirables in there at all.
I don't see the option. There's a C for desirable. Maybe that should be the D, huh?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. All right, Lyle, I think you're off the hook.
Very well.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions at all, council? If not, I think we have a planning commission report on this. I remember right.
The Norfolk Planning Commission reviewed the City of Norfolk's 2017-2026 capital improvement plan on August 16th, 2016, and recommended approval on a 7-0 vote.
All right, hearing that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Resolution 2016-43 is adopted.
I see nothing further on the agenda, so we are adjourned.